Hey everyone, hope you're well today. Hope you're keeping a positive attitude, nice and calm, mindful, aware, conscientious, compassionate, and wise. Giving up all biases for or against. So let's do the chanting now. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the six paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this, great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisoha. Tayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisoha. Tayata Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhisoha. And so just to kind of give an intro to today's class, we'll continue the commentary on my article, Nip Negativity in the Bud, with the subtitle, you could say, the buffer zone. Okay, so we'll deal with the five skandhas and so on. Okay, so today, finish that, and then we'll start the next teaching in the book, teaching number 48, or quote number 48, with the explanation 48. And I figured we'd spend 3 weeks on that, maybe 4 weeks. We can cover the 8 worldly winds, or first of all, maintaining a positive and loving attitude. Also cover the 8 worldly winds or concerns, also known as the 4 pairs. You should know these well by now. We've gone over them a few times at different times. And also the 6 paramitas, a little refresher course, reminder course. And then also faith and confidence in the Buddha, in the Dharma, in yourself, in your teachers, and so on. Okay, so I thought we'd just cover that. It's only 3 short paragraphs, I think, the explanation. And then the following week, which will probably be the one before we take a week or 2 off, we'll do Everything Begins in the Mind, or We Are What We Think, which is a short teaching that really sort of on the Buddha's teaching, obviously, but from the Dhammapada, that one that says if you have a pure mind, then good stuff happens. Impure mind, bad stuff happens. And so that one is number 49 in the book. And then for the start of next year, we'll have a look at the emptiness teachings. They're number 50 in the book. And then see what happens after that. Okay, so I just thought I'd start out by saying that today. I just had a look probably an hour before class and had a look and say, okay, what can I cover in these ones? Okie dokie. So I'm thinking, looking at those dates, now they're in my mind. We have today's 16th November, then we have the 23rd and the 30th of November, then we have the 7th, 14th, and 21st of December. So I'm gathering we'll do all those unless I get told otherwise by our host that they can't do the 21st or something. But I'm hoping we can. And maybe we even just take off the one. We'll see. Maybe, probably two. So the 28th of December will have a holiday, but you still need to practice, okay? Just because you don't have to get on a computer and hook up the Zoom and have a look at my ugly nog, then actually you still have to practice. And then I think it's about the 4th of January or something. Maybe we have that one off too. We'll see. Okay, so now once again, forget everything I just said. Or don't forget it, actually. Just put it aside. You can think about it later if you feel like it, if it's helpful, if it's virtuous for you. And so now get yourself ready for some meditation, nice and comfortable position. Bring your mind inside the body and release the tension in the body. Let's work our way from the bottom of the body to the top. And as we focus on these specific areas, then release whatever tension you may have there. So starting at the tips of your toes, the bottom of your feet, the balls, the arches, the heels, top of your feet, around the ankles and Achilles tendons, your lower leg, the calf muscles, the shin areas, all around your knees and upper legs, the quad muscles, the hamstring muscles, up to the midsection, around your hips and hip flexors, your glutes and groin, your lower stomach, just above your hips and lower back. Further up your stomach and sides to the center of your back. Your chest, underneath your arms, and your upper back. On the outside, each side is the lateral muscles. In between the shoulder blades and the spine on either side is the rhomboid muscles. Release from them. The upper trap muscles that are between the neck and the shoulders. Your shoulders. Biceps and triceps and elbows. Forearms, wrists, hands, fingers and thumbs. And now release the tension from all around your neck. The back of your head, sides of your head, around your ears, temples, all around your face, around your cheekbones, cheeks. Make sure you're not clenching your jaw. Chin and mouth, both inside and outside. The tongue resting on the upper palate in the mouth, lips gently touching. Your nose, sinuses, eye sockets, and eyes. Make sure you're not frowning. And finally, the crown of your head. So now really briefly scan your body from the bottom to the top again, just to see if you've left any tension that you can release. Now bring your focus to the tip of your nose. The object of the meditation is the feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose, past your chest, all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. Breathing in, breathing out, following the feeling of the breath as you do so. If thoughts arise, or mental agitation or excitement, any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Grasp at it, try to force it away or deny it. But let it go by replacing your mind onto your breath. Let go of any thoughts, any mental activities. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. So let's practice like this in silence for a bit. And now we can feel pleased with ourselves and fill our whole being with universal loving kindness, utilizing the visualization technique filling our whole being with the white light. And I know quite often I say, oh, white nectar. From now on, I think I just say white light. But if you prefer the texture, the smooth texture of nectar, then you can do that. But I just say white light. It's helpful to use the visualization because our mind is having visions already. We may have a vision of our body right now. We think it is anyway. Or maybe a vision of the breath, or the stomach rising, the abdomen rising as you breathe in and dropping as you breathe out. Always having some sort of visions in there, some sort of images in the mind. So let's utilize that and help ourselves to train our minds for the better. So really have this feeling of universal love and kindness. Last week, and a few other times, we've done the forgiveness meditation first. Today, I thought I'd integrate it slightly into the loving kindness meditation because it's part of loving kindness. So sitting with yourself full of loving kindness and friendship, appreciation, acceptance, respect, and so on. Also forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for anything you may have done in the past or anything you didn't do in the past that you think you should have. All of this, let go of. It's gone. It's in the past. Like I say, forgiveness to me, I like to say it's like putting down your mental baggage. Don't have to carry it around anymore. Past is gone. Future's not here. In this present moment, let's be kind to ourselves. Extend the loving kindness to us. Fill ourselves with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards with the feeling as well as the visualization of the white light leaving your heart center, entering the heart centers of the people in front of you at present, your loved ones initially, family and friends. Fill them with the universal loving kindness. Have the wish that they are happy, free from suffering, and are peaceful. And also know that they forgive you if you've brought harm to them in the past, and that you forgive them if they've brought harm to you in the past. Accept each other. Appreciate and respect. Be grateful. Now also include those you may regard as strangers, and let's do likewise with the thoughts of forgiveness and loving kindness, the visualization, and the aspiration for their happiness, freedom from suffering and peace. And also include those you may regard as enemies, and do likewise with them. With the enemies, maybe you have to pay a little bit more attention to forgiving and having them forgive. A little bit more attention to appreciating and accepting, respecting, and so on. A little bit more attention to wishing for their happiness, freedom from suffering, and their peace. So now let's extend this universal loving kindness out further and further distance-wise to include all sentient beings now, not only humans. Let's start initially around our immediate area, which could be just your house or property or your suburb, up to you. Extending further and further now. Have your loving kindness pervade throughout your whole state or county. and other states and counties throughout your whole country. And all of the countries throughout the world. Those you have an affinity towards, those you're indifferent about, those you may have some negative feelings towards. And also have your loving kindness pervade throughout all of the waterways, or the oceans and lakes, rivers and so on, down to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. Now further and further throughout the whole solar system and galaxy and universe, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space, to all living beings, whether you know about them or not. And let's recite the dedication prayer here and now to you. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious pure Shunyata, not yet born, rise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So when we think about the five skandhas, the five aggregates that make up a living being, there's many ways we can express them. And there's many reasons for contemplating them and knowing this formula. But ultimately, we really want to understand, you could say initially, the three marks of existence, the impermanent nature of the makeup of these five aggregates as a whole, the individual ones, and also subdividing the individual ones. To understand the impermanent nature, constant state of flux, of change. To understand the unsatisfactory nature, which is all of samsara, including our five aggregates, including inside phenomena, outside phenomena. And also the empty nature of the constituents within the constituents within the constituents, but as a whole as well, okay? Empty nature, to go beyond this, to go beyond even this these concepts of duality, this nirvana and samsara, to go beyond not enlightened and enlightened, to realize what we call Buddha nature, but these are just words. But that's ultimately what we want from thinking about this, from practicing the Dharma. Part of this, of course, is the development of loving kindness and compassion and all of the other good qualities, which are not separate from the wisdom. But we talk about them as separate, to develop them. But actually what we're doing is unveiling what it is we already have. It's not as if we have to go out to a shop and buy Buddha nature. Go out to the shop and buy nirvana or paranirvana, enlightenment or no enlightenment. So this is the ultimate goal of it. But also along the way, we want to develop more generosity, more morality. We want to be more patient and more enthusiastic, to be able to persevere in the practice and develop more concentration and wisdom, perfect the perfections, perfect the paramitas. So by contemplating these five skandhas, this makeup of a living being, ourself at the moment, for instance, then we help ourselves to go beyond, okay? And so otherwise, what's the point in filling ourselves with all of this knowledge, Otherwise, it's kind of like leaving it at the first two noble truths. There is suffering and there is a cause of suffering. There you go. Full stop. Finish. No. Third noble truth, as I've said many times, is the cessation of the cause of suffering. And we realize this by practicing the Eightfold Path along with all of the other aspects in the Dharma, developing the four immeasurables, perfecting the perfections as mentioned. And so when you think about the five skandhas, there's the form, that's our physicality. Then the last four relate to our mentality. Hopefully you know this already. If you want more detail, have a look on the YouTube channel sometime between February and May in 2021. Okay, so fairly close to the beginning of the Zoom classes, maybe 6 months in. And so, have a look at that. Or if you request, and enough of you request, then I'm very happy to give a commentary on them again, giving you the same commentary or similar commentary, as well as expanding in certain areas as well. Yeah, because I think we spent probably 6 to 8 weeks altogether on them. So, we can actually maybe spend half a year if we want all the details. Okay. We can utilize some point notes that I put together many years ago when I gave some commentary on the meditation of these five skandhas, each one, in a Vietnamese temple in Melbourne, before I met some of you, actually. Okay, so I think I still have those notes around too. All right, so anyway, I digress. Form. Obviously, this is our physicality here like this, but also relates to the first of the five senses, the physical senses. We have the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, and the body. And of course, they come into contact with, you could say, outside phenomena, physical things. We see things, we hear things, touch things, smell, taste. Okay, so this relates to outside phenomena too. Can relate to all living beings, can relate to anything physical in the universe, animate or inanimate. So this form, this physicality, is also made up of things we can call atoms, molecules, subatoms, protons, neutrons, different types of energy. I'm not a scientist, physicist, so on. Okay, I've studied things like that from a Dharma point of view to get more of a round understanding of it all. So I'm not going to start to throw all these scientific words at you, but unless you want me to. But basically, in layman's terms, everything physical that we are made up of many things. You could say that you break it down to say, let's say atom. Then each atom is made up of the four physical elements of heat or fire, fluidity or water, movement or wind or air, and what's the other one? Solidity, the earth. Okay. But also you can include space, because without space, the other ones don't have anywhere to be. And you can even add, if we think about the sixth sense, the mind, we can add consciousness to that eventually as well. So you can say six elements. But generally, from a science point of view and from early Buddhism point of view, four. And then you can add space as well. Okay, so the fifth. These are always changing, and they're all dependent upon each other. They don't exist without each other. Nothing physical can come into being. Water, for instance, I've mentioned this to you many times before. It requires there to be a balance of hydrogen and oxygen for there to be water. If there's an imbalance, or if one of those properties are not there, then water doesn't exist as water. Ultimately, water doesn't exist as water anyway, because that's just labeling it, isn't it? We like to put labels on everything. Okay, so in fact, we think about it, that's kind of like what we call the imputed nature, isn't it? That we label things. It's not just a word, but it's a concept, a meaning behind the word, and a concept. We cling to that. So often, when we are not enlightened, of course, then we have the relational nature, how everything is made up, like I'm speaking about right now. Eventually, we can break through all of this and realize the absolute nature, the ultimate nature, the Buddha nature. Okay, so the form, like I said, everything's changing all the time. They're unsatisfactory. Let's say we get a balance. let's use our imagination now. We have such a balance of form, of physicality, but then it changed. That's unsatisfactory. There's no self to be found anywhere within these atoms or the elements within the atom that make up the atoms. Within this physical body, if we just think about ourself, our physicality right now as it is right now, there's no self to be found there. Is the self in the fingernail? Is it in the finger? Is it in the whole thing? But hang on a minute. If you think, oh, yes, it is, you just changed. Okay, so let's think like this. Not to do our head in, but to let go of attachment. To realize wisdom eventually, okay? But let go of attachment. Attachment to the self. You can even have the opposite, aversion to yourself. Dislike for yourself can lead to low self-esteem and so on. Let go of all these things. Now the mind is made up of the four. Okay, the last four. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It's feelings, perceptions, mental impulses, or mental formation, and consciousness. The feelings, there's 3 types of mental feelings or mental sensations. There's pleasurable, unpleasant, and neutral. Then we have perceptions, or you can also call the first thought, or noting, or acknowledgement. Either acknowledging the feeling, mental sensation, or acknowledging when the senses come together, and identifying with something, labeling something. As we do this, if we don't check it, create the buffer zone, then we impulsively react to it. Mental formations or impulsive mental reactions, which has 2 elements. From the past, we bring the past and all of our habitual tendencies into the present, colors the present. Then we have intention here and now, and we mentally react in the present, either by reinforcing or both reinforcing the previous habits that we already have, as well as creating new ones, as well as creating more karma, increasing attachment, increasing aversion, so on. Unless we catch it. Training our minds, part of training the mind, we should see this as a joy, or at least, even if it's forced in the beginning, forced joy. It's not as an oxymoron, but I think you know what I mean. We have to try a bit hard, in the beginning. And then it starts to be, we gather some momentum, and starts to become more natural in the practice to do this. And so what happens, of course, then if we impulsively react to something, or even if we stop ourselves, it still leaves karmic imprint because we're not perfect yet, okay, on the consciousness. Okay, so perception can also, number 3, perception can also be known, as I mentioned, as noting or acknowledging, or like a first thought of something, not following it, because the following thoughts are actually the mental reactions. So number 4. Consciousness made up initially of the 6 consciousnesses: the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose, tongue, body, and mind. But you could say split up the 6th consciousness into another 3 to make it 8 consciousnesses. There's kind of like the receptor consciousness. Then there is kind of like the discriminative consciousness. And then there is the alaya, or storehouse consciousness. Very subtle part of the consciousness that you could say stores all of the karmic seeds, to use the metaphor. Okay, so we're continually, you could say, releasing seeds to become effects of the karma. At the same time, we're planting more seeds in there. It's continually changing. So all of these aspects, including even the subtlest aspect of these 5 skandhas, is constantly changing. is unsatisfactory, and has no self to be found. Even if we don't understand this right now, even if we just contemplate on the change, how can there be substantial self in something that changes like that? You could say changing self, but then that changed too, okay? So I think I'll just read it to you now. I think I've pretty much covered what I wanted to cover already. We only have about 3 or 4 minutes to go. Excuse me. So I won't read the whole article because we've finished it 2 previous weeks, or maybe even one before that. I can't remember now. We experience the world through our senses, which gives rise to mental sensations or feelings, which are either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. We then recognize or perceive these sensations and normally then impulsively react, which in turn leaves a karmic imprint on our consciousness, which I kind of alluded to with more detail, okay? I was going to give it a little bit more detail as well, but I think because we've already done these before and we've had a little bit of teaching here and there on them, especially through the commentary on the 6th parameter, the wisdom as wisdom, perfection of wisdom. So you can shoot me messages, questions if you like, and I can reiterate or I can expand a little bit if you like, if I get requests to do so. We should create what I like to call a buffer zone. Hopefully you never get sick of that phrase. Between the perception of the sensation and the impulsive reaction, and also just the connection between the sense and the sense object in that conscious moment, okay? And then personalizing it. In other words, allow ourselves the opportunity to not impulsively react. In this way, we can protect ourselves from creating the negative karma. To give a brief example, very simple example, if we bump our head on something hard, generally the sensation we experience would be unpleasant. We then perceive this unpleasant sensation and impulsively react with frustration or even fully blown anger, which in turn leaves a negative karmic imprint on our consciousness. However, if we create a buffer zone between our perception of the unpleasant feeling and our impulsive reaction, we will avoid creating the negative karma. Enjoy your buffer zone. That's what I'm alluding to there. I mentioned before. Have joy in your practice, Learn to really enjoy perceiving your faults and relinquishing them or decreasing them, and then relinquishing them, eradicating them. Enjoy seeing your good qualities. Don't get puffed up about them, but enjoy them and say, like that's good. It's causing happiness, future happiness. Need to increase that, eventually perfect that. Nip negativity in the bud. So whenever it arises, don't wait, okay? Don't wait for it to grow into something bigger. Just at that moment, go, it's not helpful. At the very least, not helpful and harmful in the long term, before it becomes overwhelming. So I rejoice in your goodness, as always. I rejoice in your studies and practice and sharing of the Dharma and your meritorious goodness. I think maybe we've got less than a minute.